Ricardo Melendez Ortiz from Beijing. He is the CEO and co-founder of the International Center for Trade and Sustainable Development. Welcome to our broadcast.
Welcome,
We heard the Apple chief.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We heard Apple chief CEO Tim Cook there saying that he would like everybody to remain calm with the underlying feeling that there is going to be this trade war. Is that the general feeling there?
Yes, I think that there's a great deal of puzzlement here as to what is really the objectives of these measures that have been announced. There is a possibility that is really about escalating a trade war, but it's also possible that it's about posturing and trying to make sure that China comes to a negotiating table to discuss issues that have been for a long time an irritant in the relationship between the two countries. But there's also a very good sense of proportionality. U.S.-China trade and trade of U.S. and China with the rest of the world is much, much larger, and the tariffs really relate to a very small portion of it.
So Beijing said on Friday that it would possibly target 128 U.S. products with an import value of $3 billion as retaliation for what President Trump has done, signing the executive order. President Trump obviously was anticipating this, right?
I guess so. I guess that this is no secret to anybody. All countries in the world that feel threatened by a measure that is outside of the current system of rules would immediately respond with at least a possibility that they would also take similar measures. This is exactly why we have in place a world trade system, a rule-based system that for the past 70 years have served the world really to keep peace and a very fruitful, really, interdependence among nations.
This would obviously hurt tech companies, electronic companies, U.S. tech companies and electronic companies if they were to continue this sort of tit-for-tat penalty going on between the two countries. Who would it hurt most, the U.S.?
Well, this is a very good question. In the current economy, the economy of the 21st century, what characterizes trade really is a fragmentation of production into value chains. And so, for instance, Tim Cook was one of the speakers yesterday. He's calling for embracing trade. In the case of Apple, there are at least $1 billion that are exported from China into the U.S. in products that are designed and then assembled with parts that are manufactured in different countries in China. And so you have really this very deep integration, which is multi-country. So when you're talking about tariffs between the U.S. and China, there are many other countries also that would get hurt. It's also, again, it would hurt both the U.S. and China. It depends really today how you measure the value addition in the products, in the fragmented production, right? So it's not that an iPhone is produced in China and then imported into the U.S. As I said before, the value addition of the iPhone is about 5% in China, but is a much more complex production organization, such that the intermediate parts travel between different jurisdictions before the final product reaches the consumer. So in that context, any measure that is taken by the U.S., not only against China, but against any other trading partner, really cuts on this value chains and this organization of production, and it hurts everybody.
All righty. Well, Ricardo Melendez Ortiz, thank you for joining us from Beijing.